Welcome to What Makes You Tick Best Bits. If you hire people, particularly sales leaders or sales people, then this masterclass 15-minute special is just for you. What I've done is I've gone back through the archives and found one of my favorite episodes we've ever done where we talked about the 60% failure rate that most founders make when they're hiring their first salespeople and their first sales managers and how to avoid it with Dan Hurwitz. He's been on the pod 2 times. He's one of my favorite revenue leaders. Fractional CRO. He's got his own fantastic podcast called How to Unbleep Your Startup. Check it out. But this masterclass will help you to understand, what does it take to hire the right people for early stage? Should you look for resources or should you look for resourcefulness? Should you look for Rolodexes and black books or should you look for athletes? What are the mistakes that people make and how can you avoid them? This is a no nonsense, straight to the point masterclass all about hiring at the early stage. I know you're going to love it. If you enjoy it, we'll put a link to the full episode in the comments. But otherwise, enjoy this masterclass. See you on the other side.
I think that a good leader at that early stage is directing people having done it before themselves.
Sure. I love that. I love that. And what's your view on black books? So we hear a lot of founders talking about how we're really looking for someone who's got a bunch of really strong relationships that can kind of like pick up the phone and get in there. You know, they really, really have a perception that someone has this magic bunch of go-to-network model, really close relationships that they can just call up and then immediately get into opportunities and close some revenue. What's your view on that?
Yeah, I have a pretty strong view on that. And I will tell you that I think it's bullshit. So here's why. There are people that have great relationships out there in a particular market, you know, and I see the finance folks doing this all the time, where they'll say, "Oh no, you gotta have a career in finance and know a ton of people." So, if you are a little bit later stage, okay, you've got your product market fit, and now you're looking for a perhaps even a CRO. And I know we're talking about earlier stages in this conversation, but let's move ahead a little bit. So you're looking for a CRO. I want somebody that knows the market and has a ton of relationships because I want you to go out there and generate business. That's not a CRO. That's a VP of sales. VP of sales can go out and make calls, maybe even carry a bag. But if they're managing people, it's hard to carry a bag and manage at the same time because now you're competing with your people and you're going to take all the best leads for yourself. That's a whole different argument. But I think that those Rolodexes, as they're called, you call it a black book.
Yeah.
They're good for 90 days.
Sure.
Now you're making a long-term hire, not a 90-day hire. And I think that if you hire somebody because they've got a lot of relationships, great. For the first 90 days, maybe they'll bring a little bit of pipeline in for you. It never is what they say it's going to be because the interview process is, oh yeah, I know everybody in the marketplace and I can open up a ton of doors for you. Great, go do it. Very rarely do I see that pan out. And I've had multiple chances of experiencing that. And it hardly ever really works out. And then after 90 days, you're like, all right, so do you have the ability to actually go out and open up doors completely cold without knowing these people? And that's where I call an athlete to the table. So if you have a chance to hire somebody who knows the market or hire an athlete who you can teach the market, this is where I have a very strong opinion. Go hire the athlete. If this were sports, would you hire the person that can only run? Or would you hire the person that can run, throw, catch, tackle, and is smart? You teach them the game because they're really coordinated, they're really strong, they're really quick. And so I believe that you're better off if you're making a long-term hire, hiring the athlete and teaching them the market. It's easy to learn a market. And if you're really good at making relationships and delivering a strong value and telling a great story, people will be attracted to you that don't know you pretty quickly. And I think you can get in the door. And again, that's the long term. Now, when you are an early stage founder versus looking for somebody, a founder looking for a CRO, you're looking for a head of sales. It might make sense to hire that salesperson that does have relationships so you can go and get a handful of quick wins. But after those quick wins are kind of over, then what? You've got yourself somebody who hopefully is also an athlete. So I think that the best thing to do is to go look at your competitors find out who knows the market and who's their top salesperson and go frickin' steal them and pay them whatever they're making, pay them more and give them a bunch of equity. That's what I would do. And then when you get to a stage where that person really is doing wonderful and is your head of sales, when you've got it to a later stage, maybe you're doing 15, 20, 25 million bucks at that point with that initial salesperson and marketing person and customer success person, then go hire a CRO to manage all of them. That's how I would do it.
I love it. I love it. What it makes me think of, if I try to like summarize what you've said, is don't be attracted to someone's resources, be attracted to their resourcefulness.
Love it. You just said it. I'm going to write that down and steal it, take it with me, and I'm going to post it this afternoon before you do it.
It makes sense, right? It's like, you know, again, we want to bring this person to the party because they got all these cool friends and they'll bring some cool people. Yeah, but like if their relationship is tied to that person, when that person goes, then they go, and as if they're going to be able to do it anyway. And what it makes me think of is I saw a really good post the other day from Scott Leese, and he talks about the whole go-to-network model. And he had this really great example where he's working with some companies and they go to him, look, hey, here's a list of like 68 people that we would love to get in front of. We see that you're a connection of them. You know, do you know any of them well to sort of, you know, send a WhatsApp, you know? And he had 8 people that he had the numbers for. So he messaged 8 people. All 8 said that they were interested in exploring it, and the average deal size was 50K. So he added 400K of pipeline in what took him, you know, 30 minutes to go and send a bunch of WhatsApps to. So it's a different way of doing it, right? But you don't have to go and hire someone to come in as your full-time solution, the knight in shining armor. You can do this whole go-to-network model and tap into people's networks, the Rolodexes, the black books, without any of the risk on either side. And there's a bunch of people who have come out of industry to go and do that sort of stuff. What's your view on that sort of tactic?
I think that's a brilliant move. It's quite frankly, it's what networking is. And I do it all the time where I'll say, I'm looking for somebody to open doors for me. They don't have to sell my product. I just want them to open doors for me. And then I'll go out and I'll say, you know, and I've got this one guy in India who I love. And whenever I want to go and infiltrate the Indian market, I'll call him up and I'll say to him, I'll give you 25% or 50%, whatever the numbers are, of first year total sales. If you open a door for me, you don't have to sell the product, just open the door for me. Now you can ride side saddle along the deal process and I'll give you a higher percentage because you'll help me. Because maybe you're local in the market, you understand the local culture, the language, et cetera, and that's super helpful when you're doing, you know, work outside of your domain, of your geographic domain. That's brilliant. Because here's the thing. Here's what I love about what you just said. If I make a full-time hire, that's a long-term commitment. As soon as that Rolodex, that black book is done, what am I going to do? Fire that person? So hopefully I can get the athlete and the person with the Rolodex. But in your case, it's all I'm doing is paying you for your Rolodex. So I'll give you 90 days worth of some compensation. I'll give you some cash. And every door you open for me, I'll give you, you know, X amount of dollars. Great. And when you're exhausted and all your network is done, we're good to go. Thank you very much. Appreciate your help. And then go find someone else that knows new people. That's a great model.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I'm glad that we had a similar view, but you've added some great weight. So another question. So a mistake that I see being made quite a lot is that when, particularly if they've got investor money and there's like external pressure, you've almost got someone else inside your business looking at your baby and going, this baby needs to grow up really fast. And we need to see this baby going and winning some races, you know, they go, right, we need to hire like the most qualified person that we can. They have to have this MBA, and we really want them to have worked at like IBM and Salesforce, and we have to have these brands, and that's like super attractive for them. So it's kind of like they're looking so far into the future around the value that this person's managed to go and get, that the resources that they've had available to them to compete at that level are completely different from the resourcefulness that they need to operate in that much earlier stage business. So what's your view on people being really attracted to, and the risk of being really attracted to, big brands on resumes versus the actual need that business has?
So I think about this a lot. I've been dismissed as a candidate for a CRO role because I didn't work at a company that's big enough or Or for example, I haven't sold $1 billion of revenue, sold for a company that's doing $1 billion or more. I've got my sweet spot. And for me, that's, anything from 0 to 200 million. It's a pretty wide range, but I've done all of that. This whole big company thing, are those people successful in a startup is really what you're asking. And the answer is some are. Here's what I think. If you have gone through the training and the experience of a large organization, which, by the way, is totally dysfunctional wherever you go anyway. So dysfunction is the key that's in every single job opportunity or job situation or company, right? So if you've had that great training, it's really helpful because now you've got process. I hired a guy who worked both at Cisco and Oracle. He was awesome, but he also had done some startup work. And I hired him because he can take the process training that he's had, he can take the big thinking that he's had at the big companies, and then also the scrappiness and the figure it out yourself from the startups. And he was a great hire. He's awesome. And I'll bring that guy, and he knows who he is. If you're listening to this, you know who you are. And I'll bring that guy with me anywhere I go. So I like that. But if they haven't had any startup experience, I think you're probably making a mistake because these people are used to, well, go call the research department and get me some numbers before I go on my sales call. No, it doesn't work like that, or, have marketing go and put together this nice deck for me so that I can go present to people who don't want to see my presentation anyway. And, no, you have to do all this yourself. These people can't necessarily, let me rephrase that. These people aren't necessarily trained to operate with a ton of ambiguity. And I think that is a critical skill. So I probably, unless I'm hiring an entry level, I probably would not hire somebody who only has big company experience as my salesperson. And I would look for somebody who has successfully sold in a really hard to sell environment. And here's the other thing. When you work for a big company, everybody knows you, right? Hey, I'm Dan Hurwitz. I'm calling from Salesforce.com. Want to buy my product? Hell yeah, we need it. But if I call you up and say, hi, I'm Dan Hurwitz, and I'm calling from XYZ company that you've never heard of before, they're like, ooh, what? Where's your credibility? You have to earn that credibility. And that's hard because you've got 50 other people that called that person that same week who are also trying to earn their credibility. And it's hard. So startup experience, there's nothing like it. It puts you way ahead of the game in a startup environment versus somebody who's got big company experience. So there's my long answer because I give long answers.
I love it. I think it's like the holy grail, right, to get both because like you say, a lot of businesses that have got to those larger stages have built some brilliant things and there's some of the magic left in that sales training. But if they've never had to go and figure all that stuff out and face all that rejection and, go and build the credibility that doesn't exist already within the brand. There's not even awareness, let alone the consideration stage stuff. It's bloody hard. Thank you for listening and watching this Best Bits short. If you like this, tune in next Sunday for our next special part of our favorite episodes. And if you love the main podcast, every Thursday we introduce you to a new virtual mentor so you can hear their career story and answers to the biggest questions in tech. See you on the next episode.